It's Minutes with BJ. Man, let's get it in. So, the word of today is this: don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. Man, I'm gonna share with y'all 2 stories today, and I think it's gonna be extremely helpful because for some reason, when I talk to people, when people talk to me about stuff, or I see when people so-called fail, they automatically quit. They tie these 2 ideas together that just because you failed at something, that means you're supposed to quit. So the word again is don't quit. So when I was a boy growing up, my dad used to always love to harass me, right? So one of the ways he would do this is that when he would see me come around the corner, he would grab me, throw me on the ground, put his knees on top of my shoulders, on my arms right here, and then just take his 2 knuckles right here and rub them in the middle of my chest. And he'd always tell me, don't quit, don't give up. And so he would do this, and I remember so many times I would be bawling, crying, where somebody else would have to come get him off of me, and yet ingrained in my mind, don't quit. So the painfulness of going through that agony with him doing something to me, his voice still kept being repetitious and saying, don't give up, don't quit. I know it hurts, don't give up. Fast forward to when I'm about 21, 20 years old, something in that magnitude. I moved to my parents' house when I was 19. I moved to my parents' house, and I got in a situation with my parents, and they took my truck back and everything, and I lived right behind my job. I had to get a different job, and I lived right across the street from it. But the only dilemma is that it was a huge field separating myself and the job, and this field probably was about 100 yards. And so the problem is that I had no vehicle. It was in the middle of the summer, and I'm 6'1", and this grass was the same height as I was. And every day in the summertime, for those who live in Texas, you understand the mildew is so thick, the moisture is so thick in grass. And I remember I used to walk across this field every day. And every day when I got across this other side of the field, my socks would be soaking wet, but I worked in a warehouse, so I had to be as comfortable as possible. So every single day I went across this field, my socks would be soaking wet. I tried to run across it, soaking wet. I stumbled a couple times, soaking wet. I think one time I even fell in the grass, and I was terrified thinking snakes in this grass, and I kept running. And every day when I got across this field, I looked down, and my socks would be wet. Now, this job that I worked in, I used to work 6 to 4:30. And so when I walk in the job at 5:45, 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was, until I got off work, my socks would never dry, and my feet were aching me, starting to have athlete's foot and all that kind of stuff. And then it just so happened that a good friend of mine at this time, he was working at the same job as I was, and he used to drive because he lived further away than I did. He asked me, do you want me to take you to work? And I thought about it. I said, man, that could be the answer to all my problems. Yet I told him no. Because if I let you take me to work, I'm going to count on you, and I'm going to get comfortable, and I won't want to endure. So I told him no, and I continued to run across this field every morning until I got a brand new job. So what is the point of this? The point is I spent so many times in my life growing up crying and going through something, going through the emotions, going through the pains of different situations, and yet the same consensus echoed in my mind is don't quit. Don't quit. And so just because you have a certain level of pain, a certain level of discomfort, a certain level of embarrassment, a certain level of pride to yourself, so then when pain gets to a certain point, when embarrassment gets to a certain point, you automatically assess that means now it's time to quit. That is not what it means. It means that you have now encountered something that's now going to produce character in you, and you don't understand what that feels like. You don't understand on the other side of what you need to go through is going to be a pain, tears, emotions, doubt. You have not conceived that in your mind, because when you look back over your life, you cannot associate a time when you know for yourself you did not give up, but the pain was extraordinary, excruciating pain, and yet you still did not give up. So the premise today is this: don't quit. So for those who follow me, I just moved the other day, and I could not have fathomed in my mind less than 3 years ago that I would live in a house twice the size in the area that I live in. I could not have fathomed that since I left my job that paid me good money, that now sometimes in a week I make what I made in a whole month. And what it does, it humbles me, and it brings me to myself to think to myself, I'm so glad I didn't quit. There's not a person that you can find that has some type of testimony, success story, it was a Rudy type story, and the consensus is the same, that they didn't quit. So I hope this encourages you. Hope this finds you. Hope this gives you peace in your mind through the situation that you may be going through or go through tomorrow. Or if you are in a level of success, I want you to be mindful that what you went through is meant to humble you and keep you relevant to regular people. No matter how much success you get, you are 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 day away from being humbled. So just stay humbled and people will learn from your story. So the word of today, don't quit.